Hey everybody, it's Dami and Jamie with Hometown History, and we are back. I hope you didn't miss us in the last 10 minutes, but we are having a conversation with Aaron Jacobs and Tom Davidson. And Tom, we're going to put you on the spot first. So during our larger presentation about Continental Square, we talked about the Lincoln Highway and, you know, that main thoroughfare through not only the country, but through York. So do you want to give us a little primer on local Lincoln Highway history?
Sure. Just to pick up where you left off, during the 1800s, the roads we traveled were toll roads. They were privately owned, and they had stone mile markers, and people had to pay to go through town. And as the horse and wagons gave way to the automobiles, people wanted better roads. And one of those that's most historic is the Lincoln Highway. Goes all the way from New York City to San Francisco. And it goes through York because of that network of toll roads were some of the best roads at the time. So, it's interesting. The head of the Lincoln Highway here in York County was the first secretary of the York Chamber, Eugene Weiser. And the Lincoln Highway folks were the people that pushed for toll-free roads, and that's how York got on the map.
Interesting. Yeah. So the Lincoln Highway is named after Abraham Lincoln?
It's named after Abraham Lincoln as a memorial. It's the first national memorial to Abraham Lincoln before the Lincoln Memorial in D.C. And interesting, when they came to York officials and said, let's rename Market Street to Lincoln Way. And they said, we don't want to do that. So we don't know if they wanted to keep the name that was there because it meant so much to them, or as some of us know, Abraham Lincoln didn't do very well in York County elections. So in many places across the country, it was renamed, the road was renamed, but not here in York City.
That is interesting. Okay. So Aaron Jacobs, thank you for being here. You're the past president of Rotary.
Yes.
Right? So can you tell us about why was Rotary interested in Continental Square?
So I think for me, there's a Rotary perspective to this and a personal perspective to this. So personally, as at the time I was the president of the Rotary Club of York, I'm also an enthusiastic citizen of downtown York and have been for most of my life. So when the project was brought to us from Tom Landis of the city, I was highly motivated to have our club help out with that. It's funny as you go over the history of Continental Square, it's funny that we've paved over something that is so really majestic to our town. We've had prominent figures such as Samuel Adams, John Adams, John Hancock, that, as we sit near these planters, it's a very good possibility that we are interacting and communing around these same historical figures so significant, and we're not even cognizant of it. And unfortunately, we've even actually paved over it over time. So if we can beautify the areas that surround it, I think that's important. Also, a bonus to this, you mentioned about the trolley cars. You can still enjoy those if you drive 2 hours west to Rock Hill Trolley Museum outside of Werbisonia. And if you ask nicely, they will get an actual York trolley car out, and they will take you on a ride for about 2 miles up the Shade Gap Mountain.
Are you talking from experience?
I am talking from experience, and I've got good pictures to prove that. From Rotary's perspective, we are the Rotary Club of York, and we are highly focused and have been a downtown club. In fact, we met right here 2 buildings away from Center Square as our original meeting place at the Rotary Club of York. And so our commitment is to improve the life of the city of York, and we're highly focused on youth and the environment. And so we've planted nearly 1,000 trees in York City over the last 10 years. And when this idea of the planters in Continental Squares, it was a great companion to what we've already done. And so we were very elated to help with that.
Well, they're beautiful.
Thank you.
And there is something special about when you have this pride when you're downtown and it just looks pretty and you want to show it off. So I think it's great. I think it's great for tourism. It's great for bringing people downtown. Thank you for doing that.
It's my pleasure.
And the flowers are actually pretty. You didn't pick they look, I don't know who designed it.
I didn't design it. We had professional help with that, and I think it would behoove me to say that we do have a fund set up with the York Community Foundation to keep those flowers going and cycled season over season, year over year, and we still would like people in the community to contribute to that fund because it is, I think, one of the most substantial things you notice about the changes we've done in Continental Square.
And if people want to give, they can go to the York County Community Foundation
Correct.
website.
Yes.
And look up what would be the headline.
I don't know exactly, but a good guess would say the Continental Square Flower Fund.
Okay.
I think you're simple and to the point.
Yeah. So Tom, we've got these beautiful flowers and we've got
Sure.
Lincoln Highway. Do you have any fun histories of the Continental Square?
Well, I think what I'd mention is, that's the crossroads of the two most important roads in York County, the Lincoln Highway, and then later the Susquehanna Trail was established. And so, one thing you were talking about was US 30 north of town. Well, US 30 initially was the Lincoln Highway. It went right through town before, the current section was built. So along the Lincoln Highway, Automobile Row, all the automobile dealers, the York County History Center, their former, was an automobile showroom. The Yorktowns was built for automobile travelers. One little nice giveaway I have here was from the York National Bank. They gave out maps of the Lincoln Highway when people got traveler's checks. And I'm old enough to remember traveler's checks. You're probably not. But, again, there was an emphasis on tourism, on business coming through. The first woman who drove coast to coast in 1915 was a silent movie actress. She stopped in York and she complained about the tolls. And they must have said something to her because by the time she got to Lancaster, the roads were great. So, there are countless famous people drove through York, stayed at the Yorktown, and discovered, our hometown.
Yeah,
I like it.
that's very cool.
Yeah, so you just touched on the Yorktown Hotel, but tell us about your interest in the modern air and trying to preserve that sign.
Sure. One of the iconic mid-century motels along the Lincoln Highway is the Modern Air Motel in East York. I'll call the story The Greatest Generation took the Great American Road Trip and brought home, I'll call the motel the greatest souvenir. Martin Mundus was in the U.S. Navy. He was in the Seabees, which constructed things for the troops and supported them. He came home. Him and his wife went on a road trip out west. They stayed at a hotel that looked just like the Modern Air. And when you think about it, they came home and built a place that reminded them of where they were vacationing. To me, that was very romantic. And, I go on vacation, I might get a t-shirt, I'm not going to build the building. And it was unique for us because it was a mid-century modern design. It was opened the year after the Haynes Shoe House. So, again, it was built to be seen as people went by and want to stop there. Just like you're going down the Las Vegas Strip. Everybody's trying to get your attention going down the Lincoln Highway. So, the site is up for development, unfortunately, but the neon sign has the same design as the motel. And just like earlier signs were hand painted, mid-century signs were created, with light. And it just evokes, just like this whole space evokes, a sense of place that we don't want to forget.
Yeah, and art.
Yeah,
It's
it's artwork. So, we want to preserve it. We want to bring it to the Agricultural and Industrial Museum. And we have a Facebook page.
What's it called?
Modern Air Motel, Neon Sign Restoration.
And if people want to donate, they can go to...
Thanks. They can go there, and there's a link to, we're partnering with Preservation Pennsylvania, and they're managing all the finances, and they're fully supported, and looking forward to getting that done.
Speaking of projects that are like grassroots and something that you just believe in, Aaron, can you tell us and maybe little insights into what is Rotary working on next? Can you see other initiatives to Continental Square? Maybe get in the bathrooms back?
So the bathrooms don't necessarily match the mission of the Rotary Club of York. So I'm not going to touch that. We try to work in concert with the Parks Department and city government to see what their priorities are for downtown. We are aware of some projects that are significant. One in particular that would be a good companion project to Continental Square, but being in development, it'd be premature to really give that.
What? Oh, I'm sensing you're not going to share, but soon?
Well, I'm sensing that I'm setting us up for the next season of this program where I'm invited back to talk about more work that we're doing.
That's a smart guy right here.
Yeah. But there's movement in the works, and people are, this energy in New York just never ceases to impress me. From the time when Dami and I were in high school in the early 2000s, we didn't go downtown. Like, New York was where you got shot, right? Like, that's what people said. That was the rhetoric. Whereas, like, now we can go downtown and we feel very comfortable. Now, of course, you still want to be smart. There is still crime. I work alongside law enforcement, and there are some issues. However, the amount of renaissance that's happening with downtown and the people who are coming with all of our arts and our market, I think it's a great movement.
If I can add on to that, the history of York City extends far beyond Continental Square. I mean, it goes east, west, north, and south. And speaking from the perspective of the Rotary Club, although we did a nice project downtown, we're set anywhere in the city. And you talk about what's coming up, and sometimes it's really about what the community tells us that it needs, that we can provide. And so, and I guess I say to you, to the audience, to the camera, that if you know a need that's in our blind spot that we should be aware of, that we can help with, we would love to do that, because, you talk about hometown history. We are still making history as we sit here today. This is all part of our history, and we want to keep that going for the next generations.
Something to say about ourselves?
I was going to say, what's that?
So join us for our next episode?
Yeah, October 23rd, and it's going to be about the Hex murders and PA Dutch powwowing, and that's going to be at Burning Bridge in Wrightsville. So come on down. It's going to be live and in person, and we'll be on Facebook Live as well.
And free. We're not charging. Just come on down and enjoy history.
Yep. Thank you, guys.